Okay, my name is Diana Yoziba. I'm a visual artist, and my show here is titled Through the Tide, and I'll be exhibiting Resilience too. That's the title of my piece. And I'm a mixed media artist because I paint with acrylics and I use materials. Sometimes I also stitch and I do collaging. So I do all this together. Sometimes I use two techniques, sometimes I just paint, but essentially I'll fall in the category of mixed media artist. Okay, so resilience is more like a continuation of the previous piece, hence the name Resilience 2, because in my during my MFA I started with my thesis project was Resilience 1, and that piece captured ideas relating to climate change and how that affects rural Nigerian women and the resilience of these women through the process of experiencing such difficulties. So as I moved away from that process and after my MFA, I still had those ideas, and then in the process of thinking about this concept, and COVID happened as well as um, other personal experiences, and I feel like this painting touches on everybody's experience because in one way or the other we all there's this unifying thing that makes us human. We all have things we go through. For instance, COVID has kind of unified our experience of difficulty, of struggle. In one way or the other, we're affected. So apart from that general concept, we have personal challenges. So resilience too talks about the idea of going through these difficulties at each point, and how do we see difficulty, what do we do with them, do we stay, do we go through, do we learn? So I feel like resilience is a learning process that everybody can make those connections and see how they find their way through walking through challenges, because they'll always come and we'll always have those experiences. So resilience too, it's the expression of it, it's slightly different from resilience one, because one resilience one was more figurative, and resilience two, it just shows how much I have evolved and my studio practice has changed and I've learned more. So the inspiration for those elements in resilience two stemmed from the time around last spring when I started really looking at sculptures, African sculptures, especially sculptures from the Benin Kingdom in Nigeria. So I really became very interested, and then I started researching and looking at those sculptures. At the same time, I was looking at sculptures by the indigenous people, of which I haven't really done so much research, but the formal qualities and the representational techniques were are really what got me interested. So I started making little pieces in just black and white just to see how that goes, and I liked the way it was going. And then I moved on to using a large piece, which is this 6 feet by 3 feet, and I started putting those elements of masks. So they look like masks, they look like sculpture, and in a way that I could use my cultural elements as signifiers in my piece to tell a story. So those elements stemmed from a growth process, and it's accumulation of using materials and using ideas about what I would call, what do I say define me as an African, but these are the things that I carry with me, such as the material and then the art, the African art, the features, and so those are the things that you can find on resilience. Interesting. That's an interesting one, because so when I sometimes I have a sketch. Most of the time I have many sketches, but when I start I could pick an idea. Okay, I have an idea, this is what I want to do. However, I allow the work lead. So more like I'm more of I use my intuition, and I just, not like I go off the script, but I like to go in this unknown journey. So I see every piece as a journey, and it's interesting because I'm curious, how's it gonna end? But I have an idea at the back of my mind, like this is what I want at the end. For the most part, it turns out really nicely different, more than what I had envisaged. So I always like the outcome, and so that has been my process. And for resilience, that was how it happened. And then I come back to the work. I think about something else. I think about what to add, and then that's how I like to make work. It kind of leads me on, and it's an interesting process for me. Yeah, so for the fabrics, they are, when you live in a different country, that's when you realize how much you feel connected to where you're used to, where your place of origin. So those are the things that I carry with me, and in my work, I like to use them as as a piece that signifies my heritage, my identity, and who I am, who I'm connected to, and in a way that we can't separate from our histories. So those fabrics, they mean a lot. And then in the Nigerian context, those fabrics a lot of people use them for celebrations, for events. So it kind of unifies families, friends, and calls for celebration. So I see those as a way to express those ideas of community, of people sharing lived experiences together. So those are how I like them to be on my work. Okay, so the most favorite part was, I don't think there was a part, but I think there was a process where I was like, this is what I wanted. So the process of it evolving and turning out was like, okay, so this is how I wanted it to flow. And I think what I could see was the timing. It happened so quickly, more than I expected. So I think the way it turned out really nicely beyond my expectation would be my favorite part. So for every piece I make, I like my viewers and visitors to have an engagement, and I see a piece beyond the two-dimensional. Even if it's a two-dimensional piece, I like that visitors can perhaps touch and feel and just have that tactile experience with each piece. And that's for the elements, and for them to be like, how did this happen? What does this look like? What does this mean? Are these fabrics painted, or are they stitched, or are they glued? Those kind of questions. I would like my visitors to be curious and to ponder and overall engage with the piece, and then they find the meaning. So for resilience, it's like, how do I experience, how do I go through difficulty? How do I tell my story? Because that's what resilience is about, how we go through difficult times. So because people see the elements before they see the message, before they see the story. So I like the element to be attractive, to be something people can engage with and think about, and then also wonder, what are the cultural elements behind this piece, and what do they mean, what do they symbolize? I'm currently working on another series, and The title is All in This Together. So it's almost finished, and then I have been scheduled to show at the Gallery 501. That's at Strathcona. And then I have a workshop here at the gallery for the culture days. So I'm kind of like have lots of events happening between August and November.